The KTN News Center this first Sunday of 2019, the 6th day of January 2019. A Happy New Year to you and welcome to the program. This is the first program of the year and we have a lot to discuss. There seems to be still 4 years ago, with the general election still 4 years ago, the Uhuru Kenyatta succession politics seems to be unrelenting, and we will be discussing the latest political intrigues inside the majority party, Jubilee Party, where the party vice chairman, David Murathe, a close confidant of the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, has been on an onslaught against the deputy president, Wiliam Ruto, against his candidature in 2022, saying right now, in the latest attack in the county of Siaya, that the deputy president is not eligible to vie for the presidency in 2022, saying that the ticket with the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was joint, even saying that he will be seeking an advisory from the highest court in the land. Just what is happening in the Jubilee Party the party seems to be at a crossroads, or is it a crisis? My panel will be taking a look at that and trying to weigh in on the issue that is the hot topic in political circles. So is Jubilee at a crossroads, or is it in a crisis? We'll also talk about the so-called regional kingpin seem to be endangered. The Gatundu South Member of Parliament, Moses Kuria, has also been throwing a spanner in the works, coming out on New Year's Day to say that the president has done nothing in central Kenya, trying to position himself for that to run for 2022, for the presidency in 2022. We'll talk about all that and where all that fits in this whole Uhuru Kenyatta succession battle. We'll also take a look, give an outlook of the year 2019 in terms of politics and governance. My panel will be giving their crystal balls on what to expect, or what Kenyans should be expecting in the year 2019 in terms of politics. What pundits are saying is that 2022 politics will be dominant, and the referendum talk will also not be going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you for joining me. My panel is already here with me. I have with me Kipchumba Karori, a lawyer and political strategist. Hesbon Owila is here with me as well, communication expert and political analyst. Mark Bichachi is here with me as well, as is Dismas Mokua, political risk analyst, the Duke of Musochi himself. Gentlemen, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining me, being with me. I hope we'll have a wonderful year here on the program. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's begin with what's happening in the Sunday papers. All right, and we'll be taking a look at the two leading newspapers in this country, the Sunday Standard today and the Sunday Nation, and they seem to have an identical headline, or what we call the splash. The Sunday Nation says Uhuru ally vows to block Ruto. The Sunday Standard says Uhuru's allies court a plan to block Ruto. Let's start with the Sunday Standard, and stroking controversy afresh, the Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe says by 2022, the deputy president will have served the maximum 2 terms in the office of the presidency and should not run for the highest office in the land. Let me begin with you. We'll get into this in much more detail a bit later on, but what are your initial reactions to this onslaught on the deputy president's candidature in 2022 by the Jubilee vice chairman?
Well, when 2 things come to mind, that the political class in Kenya have had a cup of coffee somewhere and have agreed to take Kenyans through some sort of mud. This could be drama. That instead of us addressing the 3 issues of impunity, mediocrity, and corruption, they've decided to keep us busy with this high-octane drama. So that probability does exist. Right. Because you see the way they're behaving, they're responding to a particular script. David Murathe is not a man given to making useless and unsubstantiated comments. He's very guarded. And whatever he says, most of the time it comes to pass. But on this one, there is that probability that because the political leadership in Kenya has failed to deliver on the Big Four agenda, the economy is going south. So they've decided to keep the masses glued to their TV and newspapers by watching this kind of drama.
You don't think this is a veiled message from the powers that be?
That is the first probability. Now, the second probability, again, you would recall that before President Moi took office, there was a group, Change the Constitution group, which wanted to stop Moi from taking office. Now, this could be the real deal.
Right.
That the Deputy President, Dr. Samuel Ruto,
right,
maybe we need to congratulate him first for his PhD, but Dr. Samuel Ruto, without much effort, has made many political enemies and many political friends. But the enemies are now suffering from a Rutophobia. So the prospect of a Ruto presidency makes people nervous, and they would go the extra mile and stop him from becoming president. But again, one wonders why the deputy president and his friends expected that Ruto was going to become a president on a silver platter. There's no way you're going to become president of the Republic of Kenya.
So this was expected?
This is expected.
Is what you're saying?
Yeah. It's very surprising that the deputy president and his company are surprised that this thing is coming up.
All right.
Everybody's going to be throwing a stone on his
Mark, what do you read from this? I mean, we'll try to analyze what Murathe has been saying about seeking advisory from the Supreme Court, saying that it is the Constitution bars him from running. What do you make of this?
One of the things that we must all be aware is if democracy is a race, then the thing that should least surprise you is you have competitors in that race. For a very long time, Wiliam Ruto, after the election, seemed to be running nearly alone. And I said in this very show that sooner or later competition will show up, because it's sort of like being in primary school when we used to have those competitions, and there were those competitions such as shot put, javelin, which no one knew, and you had your name as the only person who was going to compete in that particular sport. But when people figured out that you're going to get the trophy all by yourself, suddenly everyone signs up. And that is the scenario here, because here's the thing. Everyone is realizing that if Ruto is going to be president or not, there needs to be someone to be opposition, there needs to be someone who is his running mate. So those arrangements and alignments must happen. But as Dismas has correctly put across, there is a bit of Rutophobia, perhaps in the sense that he has styled his politics very much like the man Raila Odinga, where Raila always had Railaphobia and Raila mania, and that is so clear, because every time Ruto is mentioned, you can see the Rutophobyists coming out, and you can see Rutomania coming out, where people feel betrayed, people feel like they almost want to go to war, because one person, just one person, might not be president. So you can see those arguments playing out in this scenario.
All right. Husband Mark says Ruto is getting some competition. Did you expect the competition to come from his own party?
Well, it's kind of, a big shock, yeah? I mean, considering that just less than 2 years ago, the campaign machinery at Jubilee was speaking the same language, including the president himself, when he said that if people want to discuss about 2017, that one we cannot. If they want to discuss about 2022, then they'll meet my deputy president, Wiliam Ruto. And now the tune has changed, because he's saying that he will unleash a surprise. And that tells you that what we know is that the deputy president was going to be the Jubilee candidate. So that surprise presupposes that it is no longer walk in the park. But looking at the conversations, the high-octane, politics that is now, championed by the Jubilee vice president, you can only say that Ruto's work is cut out. And actually, from where I see it, I think most of these guys are actually making his work a lot more easier. They are reminding Kenyans that we live in a political dispensation where it is not so much about the electorate as it is about, a caliphate, a group of elite politicians. Because Murathe is not elected. The last time he was a member of parliament was, I think, close to 15 years ago as the MP for Gatanga. So essentially, we are getting this consciousness that there are people who decide who becomes the president of this country, and not necessarily the electorate. And the more they attack the deputy president, the more it becomes clear to most Kenyans that there must be something about these people that is not right. Because for the last 60 years, we've had the same system that has given us, leadership that no one can tell whether we gave the power or not, because there is some opaqueness in our electoral process. So the more they are actually attacking the deputy president, the more we are asking ourselves, could the deputy president be the game changer? Could he be the person who is going to deconstruct this political system, which from what I said for the last 60 years, has not taken Kenya very far. So if they keep attacking, they are reminding us, they are awakening that consciousness that we need to interrogate further why a system can come out strongly against one person. And if you look at this one person is probably the most different of the people who are fighting him. He is not part of a dynasty, so to speak. He has not been part of the elite system. And like President Kibaki, who transformed this country, he is a son of a peasant.
Do you see him successfully selling that narrative?
Well, I think, you see, that is where I think the Deputy President has had issues. That you sit down and ask yourself, what exactly does he stand for ideologically? There's nothing, you know. And throughout, I think he's defending himself, you know. And by defending himself, you ask yourself, why is it that his narrative is defined by what people say about him, the accusations? Right. And I think for him, it's just a question of the visibility is already there. Because in politics, you get political clout because of visibility, legitimacy, and credibility. So he needs to work on the last two.
All right. We'll get into this in much more detail. Kipchumba, what is your take on Murathe's sentiments and the whole debate?
First of all, I wish to thank our viewers and to wish them a happy new year and a great 2019. Coming back to what I think and read when Murathe speaks, Ben, it is not an every day you find dogs barking everywhere. The owners of the dogs must be somewhere. Having said that, Murathe, and in politics, there is nothing that happens just from the blues. There must have been a discussion prior to this meeting, and there must have been a meeting to allow Murathe to say what he said. It doesn't happen just that way. Secondly, in politics and in succession politics, everybody wants to be in the negotiating table. And the other thing that Murathe reminds us is that there are things around the presidency which might not be the president himself, but there are other interests around there which people are protecting. And just the same way during the Kibaki transition, there are people who came up with the candidature of Musalia Mudavadi as a safe pair of hands. I think the same narrative is coming up, and Murathe is just the courageous of the people sitting in that table. The rest might be trying to wait and see. The other thing that I read from that is that maybe Murathe has been left out by the Wiliam Ruto brigade, and he wants to be called back to the table so that you know, there must be talking, and for you to be brought back to the table, you must be shouting somewhere. You cannot be brought to the table if you are seated in a dark corner.
All right.
Yes.
What is on the table?
There's something that Will has indicated which we must not allow to go, because he's indicated that President Kibaki is the only president whose father was a peasant. Now, when you look at the history of the founding father, Jomo Kenyatta, the father was a peasant. When you look at Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, the father was a peasant. The only person who's been president of Kenya whose father was not a peasant is the serving president. And in my view, as we try to shape the agenda for 2022, we should run away from these fallacy that it's going to be a race between dynasties and peasants. Because poor Wanjiko, who yesterday was unable to sell our wares in the middle of the city because the Nairobi County government all of a sudden has decided to review their fees, is not interested whether or not you are a son of a peasant or you are a member of a dynasty. They're interested in your ideas to deliver, to drive the economy. Among all these presidential candidates we are talking about for 2022, including the deputy president, Samuel Ruto, is not come out openly to say that he supports the Big Four agenda. David Murathe has not come out to say he supports the Big Four agenda. It's only Uhuru Kenyatta and a few of his cabinets. So we should be looking at people. Let's look at the substance. You remember at some stage Martin Luther King said that we are supposed to be judging people by their character. You cannot blame President Kenyatta for the wealth that his father has got, or you cannot blame Kibaki that is a peasant. Let's look, what value are they going to deliver on the table? Because Mura in my village in Kisii doesn't care where the president comes from, but she wants to have access to water, to roads and security.
Mark Bichachi, do you agree that the dynasty politics or talk will not be part of this 2022 agenda?
First, it's absolute nonsense, okay? There's no dynasty. Because for there to be a dynasty, there's got to be some form of hereditary power. You know, that the fact that you're born somewhere, you are going somewhere. Now, you will argue...
We've had a Jomo Kenyatta president, and we have Uhuru Kenyatta president.
Yes. Now, my question is, people will say, the dynasties, let's look at them. You've got Uhuru Kenyatta, who was voted in, okay? People went and queued and voted for him. 2, we've got Raila Odinga, the son of a former vice president. My question to my countrymen is this: where is Saitoti's son? Where is Kariuki's son? Where is all these sons that we've had many vice presidents? It is not a must that simply because your father was vice president that you qualify to be vice president, or because your father was president that you qualify to be president. At the same time, it is prejudicial to say that because your father was a president, then you can't be a president. That's nonsensical. The question this country must ask, which we failed to ask in 2013, is a very simple question. Why? Why do you want to be president? And that's what this verse is talking about. For me, I'm not convinced in a Ruto presidency because he's not told me why. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing I have been told is because Mount Kenya voted he supported Mount Kenya votes, and now Mount Kenya owes. Right. Those are nonsensical, archaic village conversations. As a country, we need to talk about serious things.
So you're saying
we want to be president of this country. How will it affect the price of mboga, the price of bread, and the price of doing business?
Agreed. But you're saying that the surname will not affect.
It can't. And I'll tell you another reason why it can't. There's no tribe called Hustler. There's no tribe called Hustler. As far as Kenyans are concerned, okay, we have a tribe called haves and have-nots. Now, if you have and you had it in the last 2 days, or you've had it for the last 50 years, you live in Karen.
Kipchumba,
we live in Karen view. We view
Kipchumba,
you from Langata.
What is your view on this?
Ben, we cannot allow Bichachi to be in a new year and continue occupying the ivory tower. He must come back. He must come back to reality. I want to tell him a very short thing. If today Bichachi, if today you are to go to a funeral somewhere in the village, where the son of a former MP is there, you will realize that when we talk of dynasties, Owila will be there, and that son will be there. The first person they'll recognize, even the people ushering him in, will be the son of a former member of parliament. Why? It is because in this country, factors of production are associated with politicians. Secondly, why do we keep on putting a lot of pressure in the dynasty hustler kind of tag? Because the people who took the wheels of power initially in this country also took the wheels of factors of production. Therefore, they have made it to the extent that you cannot, it is very hard for any other person to come in between. And that is why, listen, when you listen to all those people who are fighting in the other camp, and that's why they are even trying to, this thing of Hustler and the dynasties is being reinforced by the likes of Murathe. Murathe is a son of a former member of what? Musalia Mudavadi, a son of a former minister. Gideon Moi, Raila Odinga, a son of a former vice president. No, Kalonzo Musyoka is lukewarm in that thing.
You know, don't do confirmation bias. You see, if you want to prove all men wear blue, then I ignore you and I talk about Ben Kitili, I talk about Hezbollah Nawila and myself, and we say all men wear blue. So you cannot give evidence based on a select number of people. Look at parliament today. How many parliamentarians are sons of dynasties? How many governors are sons of dynasties? That's
when
a
Kenyans
fallacy.
talk about, when Kenyans talk about dynasty politics, they talk about the two families, the Odingas and the Kenyattas.
But my question is...
Would you agree that Winnie Odinga is part of a political dynasty, if she has political ambitions?
Listen, does she have political heritage? Yes. Is it a political dynasty? No. Because
it's not a
if today we suspended democracy and we said the fact that I was born the son of a chief, I shall be a chief too, we'll be talking a different story. Kenyans have a choice.
1 minute. Well, Ben, I think the first thing that I need to respond to is what Dismas talked about, the son of peasants. I think when you talk about sons of peasants and people who are not sons of peasants, we get rid of the founding fathers because they had a privilege of founding this nation. It's only that they saw the promised land and a few of them went and left Kenyans. But then again, the issue of dynasty, I think, is something that is being propagated by the likes of Murathe, for the simple reason that there is a way in which certain names are acceptable to the system. And it is not dynastic in the biological sense. It is dynastic in a systemic sense, that certain big names find it easy. And that is what they're trying to use to start attacking the deputy president. And it is not a question of what they're doing. It's a question of how the public is perceiving that, which
we'll get into that. But before we take a very quick break, there's a story on the Sunday Standard on page 7. The cabinet resumes tomorrow, that is following an 18-day recess or holiday by the cabinet secretaries. There has been anxiety over looming reshuffle in the cabinet. Very quickly, Kipchumba, would you expect a cabinet reshuffle?
Looking at the kind of politics we are mudding, the mudded around, I wouldn't expect that for Uhuru Kenyatta to breathe new life to his cabinet, there is need and an urgent need to reshuffle the cabinet. Look at what is happening in this country. There is a lot of things that are not in order, and it addresses itself to the people who are at the helm of these ministries. Some are just outrightly incompetent, others are just ashamed of them existing as cabinet secretary. So there is need for us to recalibrate this country and redirect the efforts we have put in 2022 towards achieving other tangible goals, like the Big Four agenda to 2030. And I think most of these cabinet secretaries are too much preoccupied with going to vie for gubernatorial seats from their villages.
They're not working.
They are not delivering.
3 years, the president has 3 years basically to work. It's the beginning of the first of those 3 years. Does he need to inject some energy in his cabinet?
Well, I think it's obvious he needs to, because we are losing the sense of the Big Four agenda. I think it doesn't look like anything serious is happening as far as the Big Four agenda is concerned. And it goes without saying that it's the people that the president has entrusted with driving the agenda of this country. But I think the whole conversation about cabinet reshuffling has now become more of a mirage. Every other time, you know, there is a meeting between the deputy, the president and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is within the vicinity, people talk about a reshuffle. Another thing is when people see something untoward about a cabinet secretary, they start rumors that he's going to be dropped. And well, in as much as the president needs to do something, I think some of these things are driven by rumors.
Mark, reshuffle or not?
You know, when you open your paper and on the page, mark your world of dancers cleared by CS, and that CS still has a job, then you realize that Kenya is very close to a banana republic.
That's the Chesa dancers.
Yes. How is an article like that in the paper without another line saying CS steps down? That's the standard we should have. This is embarrassing. This is akin to human smuggling. It is a crime. And your name has been mentioned on it, and tomorrow you'll be in a village doing a fundraiser when you're clearly not doing your job. So for me, it is not a question about the political environment in this country, whether we need a reshuffle or not. A reshuffle is based on whether we've seen results or not. Now, my question is, out of the president's Big Four agenda, how far have we gone in terms of food security? How far have we gone? How many of the million houses have we built? Have we even given out the tender? We were rolling out universal health care in 3 counties last year in December. So for me, on the basis of incompetence alone, then we need a reshuffle. It is not, the cabinet is not supposed to be a place for political settlement. Okay. It should be a place for delivery. And they're not delivering. Go home. If your housemaid can't clean, would you bring them back after Christmas?
Nope. But this is what you're talking about. When a Chesa is mentioned, adversely, we are talking of reshuffle.
No, that's what I'm saying. How is there not a vacancy in the Ministry of Sports?
So Dismas, who should go? Who needs to go?
Well, in my view, you know, the president has got unlimited access to intelligence on the cabinet secretaries and whether or not they're delivering. So he's actually the one who knows who within his cabinet is delivering or not. But from a public perspective, and to buttress what Mark Bichacha said eloquently about his village mates, you're talking about a Chesa.
All right.
And there's a connection with Pakistani. And if you study Pakistani very well, that's a hotbed of terrorism. There are so many terrorists. So is there a probability that some of these dancers have come to Kenya not in fact to dance, but they're on a terrorist watch, that they're coming here to pick intelligence? And understand this club that where they dance is frequented by people of means in society, people who made it in life, access to unlimited resources. Now, these are the issues, in my view, President Kenyatta should be looking at. Still going back to that story, if you go to page 6, there's a crisis in the education sector. And
so
Amina Mohammed is still in office. Yeah, I mean, literally in every department there is a crisis. When you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, we are not sure whether Mwangi Kijura has sorted out farmers. Now, these are the people who are supposed to be go home so that we can attain that vision.
All right, so let's wait and see. We need to take a commercial break. Hold that thought. You'll give it to us when we come back. Let's take a commercial break here on Sunday edition on KTN News. When we come back, We'll get into that Jubilee Party crossroads where the onslaught against the Deputy President Wiliam Ruto's candidature or presidential ambitions in 2022 has been coming under fire from within his party, the Jubilee Party, the majority party, with the party vice chairman David Murathe coming out courageously, fearlessly and ruthlessly attacking that, saying that indeed they will go to the Supreme Court to prove that he is not eligible to vie for the presidency in 2022. We'll take a look at that when we come back. Don't go too far.